I saw a young man getting robbed. And I jumped out of the car, tried to grab the guy, and he started running. But he had robbed the guy, so I was just going to grab the guy, and he turned around and shot me. And I saw how he turned, and I kind of turned my body to make a smaller target, and it went in and out, just past my vertebrae. And I was like, wow, war veteran. And I come back to Memphis, helping somebody, and I get shot. Wow. I was like, wow, I felt like it was a stereotype.
We will get you on this show, talk about your dreams, aspirations, goals, whatever you want to discuss that's going to help somebody get better. Thank you guys for tuning in to the Unlimited Power Show. Today is, Friday. It's Friday, and Miguel has chose to come to this show right now on Friday. He could be doing anything, could be anywhere in the world, but he's here. And that's because he actually cares about his community, and exactly what we're going to focus on in this episode of Unlimited Power. We want to show you why should you use your success, or why should you use the grind for the betterment of your society. So what I like to do is, I don't like to introduce people because I never want to get anything wrong. So I'll have Miguel introduce himself. How's it going, brother? Thank you.
Absolutely.
Well,
Absolutely.
very nice having you on this show.
Pleasure. It's a pleasure.
How was your morning thus far?
Outstanding. Just to be here with you. Met Edward a couple of weeks ago. We were training at the beach, and found out we had a lot in common. He asked me would I come on his show, and absolutely. I'm a big proponent of that. A little bit about me. Miguel Pilgram. I'm CEO of the Pilgrim Group, a real estate investment, family-owned, veteran-owned business. We own a number of companies. New York Subs and Wings is a brand. New York Subs, Wings and Cheesesteaks, actually. We're adding a jazz lounge in Fort Lauderdale. We're opening that about 2 or 3 months from now. We specialize in real estate, renovation, acquisition, hard money lending. And we opened our newest real estate office downtown Fort Lauderdale, right next to our new restaurant and jazz lounge, which is opening, we're trying to say October, November of this year, 2017, as well as a clothing line, the Miguel Duvon collection, high-end or mid-level to high-end designer menswear coming hopefully spring. Shout out to Tanya Marie Design helping with that, and Integrity International. And here I am with Edward Giles at FAU.
That was a lot of things. You know, Miguel kind of sounds like me in the future. I'm just saying that because I just always have so many ideas. I'm like, one day I'll do all these things.
Yeah.
And then now seeing him doing it, it's just like high motivation for me. I work out at the beach. It was kind of beast mode workout.
Yeah.
We had the battle ropes out there.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun.
When we was pulling that rope, man, that was some very interesting, workout routines.
Yeah, it's a little bit different, but it keeps you with your core strength. As you know, without core, nothing else works if your core isn't strong.
Yeah.
But nothing works for long.
Yeah.
It gives you your sprinting ability, your pulling ability, your pushing ability, push-ups, and the sand is just a different sort of vibe. That's why you can only do it a couple of times. We did it on the weekend, so you got to recover during the week. But it was a lot of fun.
So it's on the sand. It was amazing.
Yeah.
One thing you said about the core is a foundation.
Everything.
And we're not just talking about this core or this core, which is what the core is. We're talking about pretty much the core of your character as well, right?
Absolutely.
So if you don't have the right core, there's really not much you could do to really be extraordinary.
No, you can't. And I think when you're adding to that, your core has to be right. Physically, your core has to be right, mentally and spiritually. And it's so unbalanced for most people. When you have that right balance, everything is possible. And the discipline is maintaining that balance.
Right.
Your career, your family, your relationships, your spirituality, keeping that balance, that's your core. Keep those things in balance and everything else is going to fall in line. But most people, they have a spirituality of theory, what they've read,
right,
or what someone's told them, of what they've been raised in.
Right.
And that's the same transcend to your business life and your professional life. We don't go in for ourselves. We go by what people tell us. And even when we go to school in great institutions like this one, it's a theory. When we come to the operational aspect of it, it's totally different. And I had theory first, then I went back and started to learn more about my craft. All that's your core, and you have to balance that.
Or application.
Mm-hmm.
But one thing I know about the core is it takes building up, right?
Yeah.
So you have to build up that core. You don't just start by using Bosu balls and on the beach in the sand and doing crazy things. That's injury.
No. I knew you were in shape, so I would have told other people, hold on a minute now, you just can't jump into this, because it takes somebody who's had a certain level of conditioning to jump into that sort of beach training.
So tell us more about that build up, because I remember you told me you were a trainer back when you were in your younger days, and you did it for a while.
Yeah.
And then you stopped and to move on to other ventures.
Well, I have to say I started getting in shape, I think, in high school. I was really slim. They actually called me a nerd because I read voraciously, as we were having a conversation earlier. I'm a voracious reader.
Right.
And that was my escape, because my mother was very, very religious, very, very religious. And my father was from the street, a different side of the tracks.
Right.
So I had a wonderful balance of both, which didn't always gel, but my escape was getting in shape and fitness, because my mother's religion wouldn't permit me to play any sports other than basketball, and I wasn't a big basketball fan. Mm-hmm. So getting in shape and reading were my escapes. And then my father and grandfather, many other members of my family were Navy. So that was like, can't afford college because my grades weren't good enough.
All right.
So my mother was like, well, you're only doing one thing, and that's the military. And that's having access to all that weight training equipment, some of the best trainers, gave me a great foundation for the things I was doing wrong. And then I spent a couple of years in Tennessee State shortly after, and played with some of the best football players up there, and really, really got heavyweight discipline in that. Then I realized, Then I got into martial arts and a number of other things. So it's pretty diverse, and I think that was a foundation. As I've gotten older, I've realized, you know what? That doesn't work for me so well as that. And I condensed that, and that's where we are now.
So it's like a lot of things really start by finding an escape, finding something that makes you like feel alive or away from your situation.
Absolutely.
And I think that's what got me into sports too when I was like a kid. It was my escape. I never wanted to be really home.
Yeah.
You know, because like,
gotta get out.
I lived with my stepmother, and like things weren't always like I wanted to be like in sports, and I was also a nerd.
Yeah.
You know? Like school was one of my major things. And, you know, I managed to keep a very high GPA, always like top of my class.
Okay.
Up until I got like to college, things started going down here. You know, like I always tell people, I had a 5.2 in high school, and I have like a 2.1 now.
Okay.
But I'm gonna change it up in the next 2 years. But however, I realized that a lot of people never find that thing. You know.
No, not at all.
So
not at all.
That's the thing. Yeah. How do we find that sometimes? You know, what do we have to do besides read a book? You know, maybe it's like, what do you think is that pathway to finding that other thing?
As far as the other thing, as far as your purpose, or what
keeps
you motivated, or
it could be something you just like a passion of some sort.
You have to experience. I'm on my third career. My Navy career was phenomenal. I love what I did. And it didn't start too well. I actually flunked out of my A school, which is a very advanced school for the military. And I flunked out of it, and they put you at a very menial job in the Navy.
Right.
And I worked my way back up. And that told me, I do like this thing, but I like it on my terms. And that was electronics. I loved electronics. Engineering about it. Did it in the Navy, did it in high school. When I got to college, I realized I don't want to spend 6 years in chemical or mechanical engineering and then get out and spend another 2 or 3 years working a menial job in order to really enjoy what I'm doing.
Right.
So, much to the chagrin of my mother, who is very well educated, my sister and my brother, I dropped out of college. I knew that my purpose was different, and if I wanted to get where I wanted to go, I wanted to travel, and I didn't want to be in the military under somebody's orders. How do you do that with no money?
Right.
That's the question. And I knew that was part of what I wanted to do. And that's what I set about doing. And By 2000, I got out in 92. By roughly 8 years later, by 2001, I was traveling the world as my profession. And that's because I believed that the country was too small. Where I was from was too small. And I wanted more experiences.
You wanted to change the environment.
And that has given me so many different experiences, to so much stuff, that I realized what my purpose was. And you don't have to travel all around the world, but it helps, because the world is a book. And if you're just stuck in one place or one country, you just read one chapter. Because there's nothing that I can tell you about Africa unless you're there and I can show you.
Right.
And you can experience it and smell it and taste it and see it. There's nothing I can tell you about Brazil if you're not there to see it and experience it and say, you know what? Rio, yeah, wow. I didn't know about it.
Or
Rio.
if you're still saying Brazil, you
know? Yeah, instead of saying Brazil.
You wouldn't even know how to say it.
Exactly. So that's how you find your purpose.
It's really stepping outside the comfort zone.
Absolutely.
That's so true.
Change your environment.
Always.
Get away from people that look like you, smell like you, sound like you, talk like you. Get away from the food that you've always eaten. Try things differently. Every time I've been to Africa, I went recently with my daughter, Edward. She had such an incredible experience there at the age of 17 that she said, Dad, the food tastes so good here, so fresh. Why is that? It's real food, not genetically engineered. It's real food. And now she can say, I know what real food tastes like.
Right.
So just getting out of your familiarity and doing things differently. Challenging yourself, absolutely.
Yeah. So what happened next when you, what was the, so you went to the Navy, right? And that, I'm sure that taught you a lot of pertinacity, a lot of like dedication and just focus, which we was talking about a little bit earlier.
Desert Storm, war veteran.
Right. So what happened next?
After I got out of college, dropped out of college.
Yeah, you dropped out of college.
Yeah, I took a security job. Took a security job because everybody in the military is qualified to be security. It's kind of like a joke.
Yeah.
Everybody's not. But I took a security job and paid $4 an hour. And the guy said, oh, I'm thinking, I was making $1,000 every couple of weeks. Now I'm making $4.25 an hour. And the guy was very nice to me. He said, because you're ex-military, I'm gonna give you an extra 25 cents an hour. I knew at that point that I had to be an entrepreneur one day. I knew it. I have to start my own business. I said, I can't do this. Because if I'm working for the government and I'm guarding these $1 million top secret areas, now I'm guarding the National Civil Rights Museum in Memphis, Tennessee. The extra duty he gave me a graveyard. And I'm getting paid $4.25 an hour. What has more value? The National Civil Rights Museum? Or going over fighting someone over oil?
Right.
That's when you start to find your purpose. Nothing against the brothers overseas in wars or what have you. But please understand why you're fighting.
Exactly.
Because this country is not under attack. So after that, dropped out of college. Great job paying $4.25 an hour as a security guard.
Yeah.
I got into the casino business. Why? Two things. At that time, the gaming business was really, really blowing up. And I knew without a college degree, I had to go a different route to get to my success. So I started working in casinos, ended up working for the top of my level. By the time I was 28, 29, I had become a manager of one of the major casinos in Mississippi. But it wasn't enough. And on the side, I was managing a club on Bill Street as a security guy and the bouncer and sometimes the night manager. Bill Street, it was called Legends on Bill Street. Club closed down, but it gave me some ideas. And I knew one day that I had to run my own lounge or club or something along those lines, but I wanted to be very relaxed, very enjoyable. And that was on my bucket list. So all these experiences in the back of my mind, like, I'm gonna have this one day, I'm gonna do that one day. but how do I get there from here? And I knew I had to go overseas. A buddy of mine, gaming was blowing up around the world.
Right.
China, Asia was blowing up, Edward. I mean, making Vegas look like it was small beans compared to Macau and then China, Asia.
And you're referring to gaming as far as in the casinos?
Gambling, yes,
Gambling,
absolutely,
okay.
Absolutely. And that was my venue. I got in with security, then I took over surveillance, compliance, and got to the top of my game. Within 8 years, I made manager, which I found out was big on a lot of different levels. A friend called me and said, you know, you're the only African-American surveillance manager in all of Mississippi. And there were like 20 or 30 casinos at that time.
Wow.
So I said, no, I didn't know that. So, and then someone else came from Chicago that made 2 of us. So we kind of worked together years ago, because I traveled extensively to get the knowledge I needed to get to being a manager in 8 years. Then I heard that that casino might close. Well, I was at the top of my game. Where was I going to go? Operations, maybe? No. I wanted to travel. Mm-hmm. A buddy of mine said, hey, Miguel, I know this company, Star Cruises, and they're hiring. But I took a pay cut, and right after that, I was leaving. This is personal. You guys are going to hear this. I was leaving one night, the lounge that I was working for.
Right.
I had gotten a job overseas at a Chinese company, taking a step down, but I wanted to travel.
Right.
I saw a young man getting robbed, and I jumped out of the car, tried to grab the guy, and he started running, but he had robbed the guy, so I was just going to grab the guy, and he turned around and shot me. And I saw how he turned, and I kind of turned my body to make a smaller target, and it went in and out just past my vertebrae. And I was like, wow, war veteran. And I come back to Memphis helping somebody, and I get shot.
Wow.
I was like, wow, I felt like it was a stereotype, like the system had failed me or I had failed the system. Mm-hmm. Laying in the hospital bed, I had a daughter that was roughly 1 year old at the time, maybe 1.5. My son was like 6 or 7. And everybody was like, man, that means you're not supposed to go take that job. And I said, no, it only means that I should have taken the job a long time ago. It's time for me to go. So I left everything I knew, still scars down my stomach, to take a position because they held the job for me.
Right.
And there, to me, was an obligation to at least go over there. And when I got there,